The sushi bites back. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
That's really weird.
It's not good. There's so many
What if
better
it's the
quotes.
what if it's all rice? Like it's all the rice parts of the sushi. Rice can't bite.
I mean, was rice alive at one point? I don't know how plants work.
I've never seen toothy rice, is all I'm saying. And I'd be
I
very concerned if I had.
I would bet there's money. There's a movie out there with rice with teeth somewhere.
I'm Googling toothed rice.
Ew.
Well, while Kit Googles, we will do the rest of the intro. This is episode
I think we should.
143 of Stop Talking, Katie.
I think we should just throw the whole podcast away after that.
What happened?
Toothed rice.
Toothy rice.
No.
That's what it finally did.
Yeah, that's it. I can't.
This is
Just eating
episode.
rice and there's one tooth in there.
Oh, the rice is just one
Or it's
tooth.
all teeth.
No, the rice has to.
Full of teeth.
The rice has to have a mouth full of very tiny teeth. Just think about that next time you're eating sushi, Katie. All that rice has teeth.
I eat rice like 4 or 5 times a week, so it's not great.
What if someone went to eat sushi and all of their teeth were tiny little rices?
Ew. No.
Your teeth are rice and the
I-
sushi is teeth. Like
What is happening?
this is what happens when Kit and I can't record for a week. All right, this is episode 143 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm the sawtoothed green beetle. That's what popped up when I googled toothed rice. I'm sorry.
Oh man. Hey. I am a ghost that has left my husk behind.
This week we watched 2012's Dead Sushi, a maybe the only movie we've done with 100% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Based on what 7 reviews?
Yeah, hey, I'll take it.
What?
This is a movie we tried to do last month that was not streaming, and then as soon as we got done with the month, it popped up on streaming.
Like literally the day after we recorded, I was on Prime and I was like, "Hey, wasn't this the movie we wanted to do?"
Now, see, I'm assuming if we keep talking about Toilet of the Dead and Robo Geisha, that'll pop up next. So
I so badly want to watch Robo Geisha again.
I want to see Robo Geisha and Ghost Squad, whatever this other movie is he directed. But yeah, Dead Sushi. What'd you guys think?
That was decent, and I overall enjoyed it.
What about you, Katie?
Not my favorite.
Oh,
Didn't
I loved it.
No.
It-
I did not really. There's like a few things in this movie that I liked, but overall, not great.
I was mostly kind of bored until it got to the scene where the dude is trying the sushi with his eyes closed, and he's just bleeding
Oh my
everywhere because the
God.
sushi is attacking him, and he doesn't realize it.
I
And
like.
then it's like kind of whatever, and then the dude turned into a giant tuna, and I was back in.
I like. This was one of those movies that obviously the like description kind of tells you what it is, but almost everything that happened to it I was not expecting. Like, especially when the dude turned into a giant tuna and shit, and then like I was just like, I don't know what's happening anymore, and I am in.
Yeah, I don't really know what I expected either. I didn't like look up a bunch beforehand. But I didn't really like Like I liked some of the little sushi creatures, which essentially were just like different varieties of sushi with like teeth. But like all of the CG was pretty bad, and there's a lot of like little sushis flying through the air, which like I didn't care for. Like I liked the squid, how the squid was like flying around and like sucking onto people, but like the actual, I don't know. I didn't. I just.
I don't know,
I don't
you
know.
didn't like it. You didn't like it. That's, you know.
Well, I'm really sad because like this movie actually has a lot of pretty like big people attached to it. Um, like the main character, Keiko, her name is Rina Takeda, and she's like a pretty big actress, but mostly because she's like actually a black belt. So like all of the karate she did in the movie was real, and she was actually like a professional wrestler at one point. As well as the girl who plays like the innkeeper's wife, Asami. She's like a pretty big actress and like Idol too. And there's another one that's a singer who I don't remember his name, but he played like the groundskeeper. He's like a pretty big singer too. And then the band who
Oh
did
boy.
what
Go ahead. I'll tell you in a second when you get done.
the band who does the song for it that is called like Kill the Virgin or something. They're a really big band. So the band is called Scandal, and they're like an all girls band. And they've been making music since like the early 2000s. They're huge. They've done theme songs for like really popular anime like Bleach, Full Metal Alchemist. They've done touring like all over the place. Like they played House of Blues in California like a couple of years ago. And they also have done splits with like TM Revolution, who is like a national treasure essentially. So like there was a lot of big names like attached to this movie. I just can't really figure out. There's just something about it that just like did not work for me.
Yeah, I mean it happens. This like I by no means do I think this was a good movie. I thought it was like a fun movie. Like I enjoyed watching it because it was just extreme. Like this is the kind of movie I like watching for this podcast because it was very stupid and like completely ridiculous. Like everything that happened was just so insanely over the top, and I kind of found like any of the scenes where you said like the main actress was doing like the fight scenes were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I was kind of in the thing earlier that Asami actress is
Mm-hmm.
in. There are 5 of these movies called Rape Zombie Lust of the Dead.
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
not great.
Yeah, and there are 5 of them. um
She's in a she's
she
in a lot of movies that are like
She's in a lot of the movies from this
great.
director and the guy, the director of Tag. It looks like.
Yeah, as I was like looking through some of this director's like other stuff, I just think he's not for me.
She's in
Yeah,
Sky
because
Sharks as
he
well.
also he also does the zombie ass Toilet of the Dead and some other things that I just don't like because this is this movie is like oh yeah okay wow uh he did
What?
a movie called Hard Porno and then one called Double Horny. So I think maybe he's just not for me. This movie like goes
You
back
don't
to
want to see
being
double
it.
horny?
I don't I don't know what that means. So it just was
That
like
seems pretty
you're right.
self-explanatory.
It's it's stupid, but it was kind of like too stupid for me. And also it's like extreme we're back to like an extreme amount of fan service, which is questionable, but I don't know. It was
Fans?
whatever.
What fan
I,
service?
I'm very much looking forward to seeing Bad Butt by this director.
Same. It's only 8 minutes. Um, yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I thought the beginning, like up until
It took a while to
up
get
until
going.
like all of the action with like when the sushi comes back started, I was kind of like this is kind of boring. But once that
Yeah.
shit happened, I was pretty on board. Like when we'll get to it, but the scene when the dude is hiding in the bath, I was fucking losing my mind.
Oh my god.
Because there's just there's something about jokes that are so stupid, and when they're like when she's just like, oh, it would be a real shame if there was some kind of pervy guy in here. Thankfully, no one's in here. Type of stuff like that. Those kind of jokes make me laugh. Where they're like explaining basically what's happening, but so like exaggerated. So I don't know. We'll get to it when we get to it, but I was on board. Now we just have to get Toilet of the Dead and Bad Butt on streaming. What is happening in Japan?
You know.
Yeah.
That's a question. That's a conversation for a different day, I think. Okay, so basically, Dead Sushi starts off with I assume it's Keiko narrating. I didn't write. I don't know. Somebody is narrating about essentially like how you make sushi and is like explaining what sushi is. So for most of what we're talking about in this movie, if I don't know, there's lots of different kinds of sushi. This is specifically the kind where it's like fresh fish that is over like a log of rice. So there are some other kind of variations in this movie, but like when you're picturing this in your head, that is most of the sushi. It's not like California rolls.
Yeah, it's not like how we're used to here where it's like wrapped in seaweed and shit.
Right. That's like just different kind of sushi. So she's basically talking about how, and we're watching somebody make sushi, about how like essentially it seems really easy to make sushi, but it's actually extremely hard. And she also says something that she says that it's, you know, it's a lot more complicated than it seems because it's so simple. You really need the ingredients to be like the best. And she says it's really hard to be a sushi chef. It takes 3 years to learn, which is not super accurate. Like people who are considered to be like master sushi chefs, it's like at least 10 years of them like training under different like masters and stuff. That's
wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I also get it. It's like, it's, you know, like an art form there as opposed to here. It's like you could literally go to a place that's essentially like a Chipotle where they just pick shit you want and make it for you.
Yeah, we don't really have the same level. There's also like really, really specific like etiquette you need to follow if you're like going to Japan to eat sushi, like from a chef or whatever, and the etiquette is crazy. But it really is. It's like a coveted thing. And the other thing that I think is really interesting is that, well, we'll get into it. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, the guy that plays the sushi chef that works at the hotel that like she yells at later was in Shin Godzilla and Audition and one of the Ju-on movies. Oh, maybe the one from 2002. That's not the original one, right? Or is it? Time is.
I know time doesn't. I thought I recognized him. I didn't really look up anyone. I didn't really look up anyone aside from the people that I recognized.
Yeah, a lot of these people
I knew who they were.
Are like, they're people that like, because some of them he looked familiar to me, but I couldn't place from what. And now that I'm kind of like looking through some of them, like a lot of them are in some like pretty big things. Like you said, that main actress, she's in like Attack on Titan. So and like that's, from my understanding, very popular.
Unfortunately,
I don't know what the kids are into. I'm not on the TikToks.
No, people love Attack on Titan. I do not care for it.
Attacking and Titans are both very cool.
Katie is anti-Titans.
Google Attack on Titans and look at them. First of all,
I've seen them.
Okay. Yeah, the guy who plays like Mr. Yamada, not Mr. Yamada, he's in like he's in a bunch of stuff too, like Tokyo Gore Police, all that kind of stuff. So
the guy that does the voice of Eggy is only an actor from this movie.
Yeah.
He's just the composer from like, he composed the music for Bad Butt though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I assumed that maybe he was like behind the scenes guy too.
That was another thing in this movie that I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I love this. Anyway.
Well, okay. So basically, Keiko, our main character, her dad is like a great sushi chef, and she is not really great at it. She's trying to learn, but she can't really get it together. And so he also makes her do martial arts training to get rid of her quote unquote femininity. And this I thought was really interesting. First of all, not great, but also it's really, really uncommon for there to be like a female like master sushi chef. There's like literally like a handful of them that exist in general, and there's like two that actually have restaurants. So the fact that our main character is a girl and her dad is like doing everything she can to make her less like feminine, like that's why. So there's like a reason behind it, but it's also not great. Anyways, so I don't know. This beginning is like weird because essentially she's like, yeah, my dad is the best chef and fish are lucky to die by his hand and whatnot, which ooh. They show like her dad doing some martial arts training with her. Her dad also does the thing that I don't know what it's called, but I called it stabby hand.
I think that's what it's called.
Okay. So it's like she put her hand down on the table and he takes the knife and like stabs between her fingers, and she has to like not get stabbed essentially.
It's what Bishop does in Aliens to
yeah, stabby hand.
Yeah.
I probably called it stabby hand then too. I don't know what it's really called.
I would just call it the knife game.
Yeah.
I feel like it's
pretty
just
much any
I feel
prison
like
movie you'll see it too.
That's a game that Lance Henriksen made up.
Probably.
I'm just going to assume the first time it ever happened was on Aliens, and no one corrected me because I would like to assume Lance Henriksen just does that for his spare time.
I probably
just go into bars and be like, "Hey, put your hand on the table."
Oh my god! If anyone, oh no, thanks. I couldn't. I'd pass out. So she does get cut a little bit, and she bleeds onto like a piece of sushi, and that's how I thought the sushi was gonna attack, but it doesn't. It's like normal.
the CGI of the blood spreading on like I forget if it was the piece of fish or the rice or whatever. Looked so bad.
Yeah, like I said, the CG in this is not great. So then we get like credits basically, but it's over like a montage of sushi training that's like a mix of making sushi but also martial arts for whatever reason. And then
I mean, it's a good representation of what this movie is, so
yeah. So then Keiko's dad is like, you smell like a woman and you'll never be a sushi chef because it mingles with the smell of the fish. Which, what? She's basically like, I'm sorry, I can't change the way I was born. And then she like runs away from home. So here we are.
I forget. It cuts to like a couple years later, right?
Oh, I don't know if it was a couple of years later. She essentially, there's like a voiceover of her saying that she like took a job at they don't say it's like a ryokan, which is basically like a place that people go that has like the spa baths and all that stuff, and they serve them food. Like it's not just a regular hotel, but I don't know. She just says that I don't know if it was like how much time was passed, but she basically takes a job there where she's trying to carry food into like some customer or some guests there, and the other girls are basically like teasing her because she can't carry more than one tray. And then they're like, here, carry our trays too. So she's trying to like carry 5 full trays of food, and she can't, and she falls, and they laugh at her. So yeah, that's sad.
These girls get what's coming to them because they seem not great.
No, at least, ouch. Yeah. So then there's like a group of businessmen that come in from a place called Komatsu Pharmaceuticals. I called them the Farmer Bros the rest of the movie. So they arrive And basically the head guy is like, you know, the owner of the inn, who are the Hanamakis, husband and wife. They're there to like greet them essentially, and then they have their like waitresses. They're not. I don't really know how to explain. Like, they're not. You know, they're like the.
I mean, they're not. They're
the wait staff.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a hotel, but they bring them food and they like take care of them.
I would
Essentially,
say
it's not just like room service.
They're not like necessarily like geishas, but they're kind of, they seem like they're sort of filling that role.
Yeah, like essentially.
They're not robo geishas, that's for sure.
No, they're not. They're just regular people, unfortunately. So they essentially like come in, and the head guy, who is, I didn't write his name down actually. He's Yamato. Oh no, they called him President Komatsu, I think.
The guy that runs the business or whatever.
Yeah, we'll just call him the president. He is basically like, ho, your women are high rate, and as long as your sushi is, we'll be fine too. He. Gross. Keiko comes running in, and she is covered in food. Like literally, there's like a tempura shrimp like stuck to her hair, and like noodles and shit. And she's like, hey, and they're like, what is this? This is uncalled for, whatever. And they're like, oh, we're sorry.
My least favorite thing in this movie was like the what looked like spaghetti hanging from her hair that like when she bit over like didn't fall out, and it was bothering me.
Oh.
Yeah, when like, she was like bowing to apologize.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like that it's like nothing's falling out, it's like stuck there, which like I get it, but like I was like, it like the weird OCD part of my brain like wouldn't let it go.
Yeah. So they're like, sorry, she'll be punished, like this won't happen again or whatever. So then the basically like the two inn owners like take her out back and are like, listen, like this inn is 100 years old, but like the only reason that we can still run it is because like our sushi, the reputation of our sushi is so good that people still come here, so like you can't be messing around essentially. And she's like, okay, sorry. The groundskeeper, whose name is Sewada, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I was trying to find it on Letterboxd, but it doesn't have a lot of the people. Yes, yeah.
Okay. He essentially comes up to her and is kind of like, you know, hey, no, it's okay. If you're not good at this job, like, just... No, it's Sawada. My bad.
Oh, that's Sawada. What I thought you said.
So, yeah, he's essentially just like, hey, like, it's fine. Don't worry. Like, you can just try lots of different things and, like, but then he, like, looks at her hands and is like, you have nice hands that look like they're suitable to handle fish. And I was like, what?
I like that. That's like,
please don't say that.
Everyone's compliment for her is just like, you got delicate looking hands. You would be great to make sushi.
Yeah, which like what?
I would stab anyone that said that to me in the street.
Yeah, that's not great. And so essentially she's just like, haha, thanks. Then oh god. Oh geez. So we see this couple arriving at the hotel, and essentially like they're arguing because the guy is like, it took us way longer to walk here, and as a punishment you have to kiss me. And she's like, no, I don't want to. And he's like, well, we're dating, aren't we? And she's like, yeah, but I like plutonic. And he's like, that doesn't fly in 2012. And I was like, oh my god. So he kisses her, and these sound effects of the people kissing in this movie are disgusting. They're like really loud, and I did not like it.
Yeah, this was like, all of this stuff was the stuff that I was like, I didn't like. Like, where I was just kind of like, oh no. Like, I really thought this movie was gonna end up being like, I get like American Pie's not the right term, but like a really just like stupid fucking like comedy type thing.
I wish this movie had been American Pie.
Just American Pie, but it's sushi.
Yeah. Someone fucked the sushi,
I was gonna
and
say...
now it's out for revenge.
I honestly, I am honestly surprised that did not happen.
I
in this
mean,
movie.
look, spoiler: some sushi fucks in this
actually, it
movie
kinda
later.
did.
So,
Yeah, it kind of did.
American Pie was not like the right thing, but like at this point in the movie, I was like, oh no, is this gonna become like a really like shitty comedy movie? Like, where like, because once those sound effects happened, I was like, oh no, this is like really loud and pronounced, and I was just like, this is not boding well for me.
Yeah, it was a weird choice because they also did this weird sound over whenever Keiko was like bowing to apologize. They added a really loud like zoom, zoom sound over her doing it, and I was like, "What?" Like, they almost kind of tried to. Well, the kissing weird choice, but they did kind of. It is kind of more of like a anime stylistic movie than like some
Yeah.
of the other ones that we did. So like the bowing thing made sense to me, but the kissing was such a weird choice. Anyways, they're kissing and they look over and there is a guy just sitting there watching them eating some sushi. I don't I think his name is Yamada, but I called him Squid Guy. So we're gonna just call him Squid Guy.
I think it was Yamada. Like Letterboxd doesn't have, it has the actors, but it doesn't have all of their character names, and his is one of them that's not on here. But that sounds that sounds familiar.
And you don't find that out until like way later anyways, so we'll just call him Squid Guy. He's just sitting there watching them eat sushi, and the guy that's like part of the couple is like, what are you doing? And he's just like, oh, what? Like, it's not okay for me. It's like not okay for me to be enjoying sushi, and it was just like wasting away in the garbage. No one was going to eat it, so I'm going to keep eating it, and you two keep going at it. Ew. So the dude like walks up and is just like, ew, gross, and starts like kicking him a bunch and stuff, and kicks his sushi over onto the ground. And then Squid Guy is like, I won't forgive you for wasting food. And then he also says, the moaning of dead fish rings in my ears. And there's like squid tentacles coming out from his jacket that are like...
Sounds like not a great existence.
No, sounds awful.
Yeah. And then he basically unleashes his squid at the couple, who run off. And they like run into some kind of like storage part of the inn or whatever. They're running around. The squid comes in, and in a very shocking turn of events, just cuts her head clean off. Which I was like, oh, okay. Like I was kind of into it at this point. But then
so when I was watching this movie, the more it went, all I could think about is I was like, I can't wait to hear what Katie's notes are like for this movie.
well,
because I was like, this movie's so over, like all over the place, and like kind of seemed like I wasn't sure whether you were going to like it, but I knew there was things that you were gonna be like, well, I hate this.
there's a lot that I hate about it, honestly. The head getting cut off I thought was extremely cool. There's also like we do see the squid like flying around, and like sometimes it's a real not a real squid, it's like a like a latex squid or something like that. And anytime it's a latex squid, I'm like super on board with it. Sometimes it's a CG squid and it doesn't look great. Her head getting cut off, really cool. I felt like it was very unexpected because this is like the first kill, and I feel like a lot of these movies, when the first kill happens, that's when you're like, oh, okay, like you don't know how gory it's going to be or not. And I was really into it. So the rest of the kills to me were not as good as this first one, except for this next part where her head gets cut off and it flies over and I don't know, lands on her boyfriend's mouth, and they make out with tongues, and it's like blah, 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 like a more like
so
like
stupid.
slurping sounds.
This part was cinema to me.
Yes.
So
This is what the entire form was made for.
so he's making out with her head, and then the squid comes in from the back of his head and torpedoes like through his head, through his mouth, into her mouth, through the back of her head, so that it's like speared. He's dead, but it's like speared her head and his head together.
Perfect.
And
it's so Mortal Kombat. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're making out, and well, you know, that's it for them. Squid guy retrieves his squid.
In my opinion, a very good way to die.
Like
making out, getting a squid through
which
the head.
one? Like which one do you want to be? The head or the person?
I don't care. Whatever.
Okay.
Whatever fate chooses for me.
Squid.
I want to be the squid.
Yeah, me too. I want to be the squid in that scenario. And he's essentially just like, oh, I'm sorry you have to deal with this, like, to the squid or whatever. So, and he literally pulls the squid out. And, like, it was pretty cool looking, except, like, they do this, like, CG blood spray in this movie that I'm really not a fan of. And it happens a lot. And I think it's part of what I didn't overall, like, takes away from the scene for me, if I'm honest. But anyways, so the inn owner's wife, Yumi, she is in basically where the chef, his name is Suchida, is where he makes the sushi, makes the food for the guests or whatever. She's basically complaining that the pharma bros are like really needy and they're terrible, which I'm sure most groups are. And she's basically complaining about how they want dinner early and like, can he make that happen? Because, you know, preparing sushi, you take your time. And he's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I don't know where that accent came from. I've been in California too long, I think. He's like, don't worry about it. I will just serve them ready-made sushi because, like, he essentially says, like, they're trash. They're not going to know the difference, which is pretty funny. And then they make out, and, you know, so they're together, even though Yumi is married. But, okay. So, basically, Suchida decides that he is going to do a sushi demonstration for the Farmer Bros. And so he's like making a show of it, you know, and they do show him preparing like a bunch of different kinds of sushi. And then Keiko and like all the girls and like the staff are there watching. And Keiko's watching and she's basically just like, man, this guy sucks. He is sloppy as hell. And I mean, she's like thinking this to herself as she's watching him make the sushi. Sushida like gives the sushi to the Komatsu president guy, and he's like, here. And then him and like one of his people that works for him, whose name is Minamoto, they're basically like describing the quote unquote the right way to eat sushi, even though it's incorrect or whatever.
A lot of the sushi stuff went over my head because I barely like sushi.
So I know like a fair amount of sushi. Like I don't eat like the kind of sushi that they're eating, but I've seen like a fair amount of things on how to eat sushi correctly, and like I'm definitely not an expert, so I want to default to the movie, but the things that I've seen about how to eat it correctly are not either of the ways that they describe in this movie, so I don't really know. But anyways, the point is that they're eating it correctly, and Keiko is like, okay, you guys are trash, you don't know what you're talking about. So that's what happened. She basically calls them stupid because they are, number one, eating not fresh sushi, and they don't know the difference, but they're pretending like they are quote unquote, she calls them gourmet fakes. So they're essentially just like, they're pretending like they know everything about sushi and they don't know shit, which, I mean, fine.
I did like her in this scene when she just like kind of snaps and starts yelling at them about how they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Um, yeah, because kind of like, she said that she wasn't really the greatest, like, she's not like a sushi. I mean, I guess she is a sushi prodigy, but like she just wasn't super great at it because her dad like sort of wouldn't let her do it her own way, even though like she has like an affinity towards it. And so in this scene, it's kind of like it's sushi is so ingrained in her that she just like cannot not say something, even though it's like extremely rude and she's gonna get fired for like calling everybody out or whatever. So she does. She does. She calls him stupid. Um, for some reason though, like this just gets really out of hand because the whole like farmer bro group gets up and are like, "What are you talking about? Like you can't talk shit about us." There's one guy named Nosaka who stands up for her basically and is like, "No, she's right. Like you guys are full of shit." But then she calls out the sushi chef and that's not cool because he gets really mad and attacks her with a knife.
Fair response.
Yeah. So, but it, she knows martial arts, so they're like fighting. They're doing like a mixed martial arts with like knifing and whatever. And then like once she beats him, essentially the entire like farmer group starts fighting with her, and the scene is so ridiculous. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it. I didn't write anything down because I thought it was just stupid.
I didn't like. It's just. I mean, it was basically just like a fight scene. I don't.
There was a naked guy for some reason. Like,
oh,
what?
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Where she like so. They have on, I don't know what the name of them are. That's just like whatever, like the like robe type thing. It's not even necessarily a robe, but like they have on like whatever garments from this hotel, and she like unspools the dude and is like dragging him around while he's holding it, covering his like genital area. That's I think is that what happened? Something like that happens.
Yeah.
Not that specifically, but I can't remember if I'm like somehow combining that with Good Burger when whoever gets like dragged in Good Burger.
The little girl.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember if this guy got dragged around or if it was just that like
essentially she's using the belt from his robe to like hit other people with it, and so it's like stuck to his foot or something. So it's like, yeah, it's just like spinning him around and shit. And like this scene I felt was not choreographed super well. So it just was kind of like nonsensical.
I don't remember this one as much as I remember the one that happens later after they get to the bar, because that was the one that I felt like the choreography was pretty cool. Like the one they show the stuff during the credits.
Yeah. So, okay, basically it's ridiculous. Eventually, somebody is about to punch Keiko, but Nosaka stops the punch basically and defends her. But then Inomoto, who is essentially like basically just sucking up to like the pharma boss the whole time, is essentially just like, hey, you can't offend him like that. Please allow me to kill you or whatever, and chases her out of the room with a knife. So
I guess at least it was polite.
Yeah. So, essentially this is when the Squid Man like shows up again. He grabs like the head president guy, and it basically just turns out that his name is Yamada. He used to work for the company, the pharmaceutical company that they all work for, and he was developing a serum to revive the cells of dead creatures. And the serum worked, but the side effect was that they come back evil, and if they bite you, then you get infected. So,
not great side effects. Like,
no,
gotta work on that.
Yeah. But then, you basically get the idea that they like fired him to sort of like cover up for the company like doing this. There's like really no resolution with like for that, but essentially he's got a syringe in his hand, but the inn owner Hanamaki shows up with a gun and shoots him, and then is just like, oh, I'll take care of this, please just go relax in your room, my guests, and just like shoos everybody off. Squid Man isn't quite dead, though. He injects his squid and then commands it to get an army and kill the guests, and then it flies away.
What a phrase injects his squid is.
It was only a matter of time till we got that phrase on this podcast.
That's what it was all building up to. Squid injections.
Squid, yeah.
Toothy rice.
I really hate that. Tooth rice. So, Keiko and Inamoto are fighting. Keiko sees the main squid come flying down the hallway, and she's kind of like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And Inamoto kind of like turns around, like doesn't see the squid, but like happens to knock it away with her knife, and it flies into another room where earlier these are two of the pharma guys that basically were like, one of them is like really into trying to touch Inamoto's boobs, and when she is like being really into the president, he's like, like screw this, like let's go back up to my room and eat sushi, like I don't want to be around them or whatever. So they've been separate, they're eating sushi, and basically the squid, like, I did think this was sort of funny. The squid like lands on their like plate of sushi, and one of them goes, "Oh, I think our sushi increased," and the other guy's like, "What are you talking about?" And then they're talking. One of them was sort of talking about how he feels sad for eating the sea creatures, and the other guy's like, "Nah, it's fine. Just close your eyes and basically like, I don't know, enjoy the taste of the sushi." And he's like, "Okay, I will." So they both close their eyes. Meanwhile, the squid is like flopping over the other pieces of sushi to like inject it. It's like biting it so that the other sushis will come alive. And so he's about to eat a piece of fatty tuna, which is very, very, very popular sushi. And the tuna like sort of comes alive. Essentially, it gets spiky so that when the guy picks up the sushi and puts it in his mouth, it's like literally just like razor blade spikes, which
it looked not great.
No.
It's not something I want to eat
at all.
He chews it and is essentially like, "Oh, what an interesting texture," and blood immediately just starts flowing from his mouth, and he's like, tastes sort of irony. I'm gonna eat another one." And like every time he talks, there's just like blood pouring out of his mouth, which is
so stupid,
fucking gross. So he picks up another sushi to eat, and his friend like opens his eyes and happens to see that like the sushi is alive or something. He tries to smack the sushi out of his hand, but it cuts off the tip of his tongue, and then another piece of sushi bites into his neck. We got a lot of tamago slander in this. Tamago is essentially just like sushi. It's like made like sushi, but instead of fish, it's like a rice roll. It's like made out of really, really thin rolled like layers of egg, and it's like one of my favorites. It's so good. And they talk shit about it in this. And there's like a little tamago roll there, and he's getting bullied by the other sushi because he's not real.
It's not fish.
Yeah. So he runs away.
Another sentence that
This is really just a heartwarming story about a little tamago coming into his I'm sorry. Well, it is a tamago, and they call it Tamago-chan maybe, but he is credited as Eggy. So basically the other guy in the room is chased out by sushi, essentially. Oh my gosh. Okay. Meanwhile, like Inamoto and Keiko are fighting. Keiko gets pushed into this room, gets like kicked into a room where she gets locked in, essentially. So the pieces of sushi are flying around. They can fly. They can just like free fly in the air. And there's a salmon roe one that flies, and Inamoto sees it and is like screaming for help with her tongue completely out of her mouth for some reason, and so the salmon roe bites onto her tongue.
Very weird.
Yeah, the sushi is also, she's like just going like and the sushi's like like the sushi's laughing. And the guy who was like just getting attacked like shows up and is like, oh man, there she is. She for some reason her shirt is unbuttoned. I don't know. And he's like, oh well, I'm gonna touch her boobs because she's gonna die anyway. So like this is the thing, instead of helping her, maybe, but it's fine.
Meh.
And then a bunch of other sushi come and like jam into her mouth, and so he's like gonna try and touch her boobs, but now she's like bleeding profusely, and he's like, oh no, bloody boobs, I don't but it's fine because then her eyes pop out and she dies. Yeah, so basically Keiko, we're back to Keiko. She finds Sawada like tied up in the room. There was a scene earlier where the squid guy like attacks him, and I guess for a while you don't really know what happened to him. But she unties him and he gives her a pep talk basically about how she could be a fighter or a chef or a hero. The pep talks in this movie are like don't really mean anything. Like the things they're saying are not really, I don't know. So
they worked for me.
Then he he tells her that he used to be the head chef at the resort with his wife, but he got into a fight with a customer and then accidentally stabbed his wife and killed her. And now he is afraid of knives.
Fair.
So, that's the backstory on him. Why are you... Don't insult your sushi chefs, I guess, is what I'm saying, because they will pull a knife on you so fast, it seems. We're 2 for 2, so I don't know. So the innkeeper, Hanamaki, basically goes back to Squidman's body because he's like, well, I'll just bury him up in the hills. No one will know. But, as he's preparing to do that, Squidman stands up. And Hanamaki is like, oh no, that's not great. And he runs up the stairs. And then, I don't know what this guy's name was. The guy, we'll call him Boob Guy. He is also running, and they slow-mo headbutt each other on the stairs. It's like a long slow-mo. And then Boob Guy gets attacked by the OG squid and like some other piece of sushi, and the innkeeper is like, what the fuck? And is scared and runs away. Meanwhile,
I don't remember this part was.
So, meanwhile, like, Yumi, who is the innkeeper's wife, is talking to Tsuchida, who is the sushi chef, about how she wants to dump her husband. And then she asks him to, let's do that kiss that Japanese people do.
Oh, fuck, yeah, this sucks. This
with
is
the egg.
The worst thing ever.
So, he cracks an egg. And then the thing that they do is they basically, he puts the egg yolk into his mouth, and then they just like essentially
swap it back and forth.
Spit the egg yolk back and forth between their mouths. But then like the egg yolk at some point breaks, and so now they're just like gagging, which I assume was real. I don't know. It looked pretty real to me. Gagging broken egg yolk into each other's mouths for a while.
I hate it.
And meanwhile, there's a sushi behind them, like singing opera.
Kit's being very quiet on the kissing egg yolk part. It is worrying me.
Eggs are delightful. Who wouldn't want to swap some yolk, in my opinion? Let's stand across the room and we can spit egg yolks in each other's mouths.
So, I tried to look up if this was real.
Oh no.
Because why not? And the only thing that came up was...
I hope you had a filter on when you did it.
Well, no. The only thing that came up was like other movies where this is a thing, and then I found a Urban Dictionary entry about it. So I can't really tell.
That sounds like some shit that somebody made up for Urban Dictionary that's like the director found.
Yeah. Because then there's like this other movie that comes up that was called like Tomopopo or something like that, and I guess that is like a really big thing in this movie, and the movie is supposedly about food and sex. So if that's your thing, I guess maybe check it out.
I looked it up, and I'm not happy that I did.
Yeah.
Don't
Well-
do what I did and Google snowballing with egg.
I just looked up kissing with egg yolks. The top video on YouTube is 2 food truck workers turn an egg yolk into an erotic aphrodisiac.
Yeah, so I don't anyway, I don't know. Like eating raw egg, like eating raw egg in Japan is totally a thing. It's totally normal. Their eggs are amazing and delicious over there. Like it's fine. Like it was kind of weird because when we went, there's not really a lot. You don't really get like you can't really go to places that are traditional and order like a salad like you would here. And a lot of places that I ordered like a side salad or something like that, it came with like a raw egg on it, which was very surprising to me.
Oh, thank you.
So
What if they did it with ballot?
With what?
what?
Ballot? Like BALUT?
Oh, is that the one that's got like the half formed?
Yeah. It's like fertilized
No.
egg.
Sir,
It's like
no, sir.
it's like a Filipino dish.
I was like, are we talking
Are you
about
talking
voting?
about-
What's happening?
Are you talking about like a century egg?
I've no there. Well, so there's a. I've seen it on like those traveling cooking shows where
I'm
they
not
go,
Googling it.
and it's an egg that has a like chicken or duck or whatever in it that
Yeah. It's
It's
like,
like-
fertilized duck egg.
yeah that
But you eat it whole, right?
yes, and so it
Yeah,
has
that's the century egg.
and yeah, it's got like it's like a quote unquote half formed whatever duck or chicken in it, and like I remember whatever show I was watching, somebody eating it and being like, oh, you can like feel these like sort of
Yeah.
formed bones in the beak, and
It's
Yeah.
probably I watched Anthony Bourdain eat it.
I think I actually saw it on Destination Truth, which was like a show where this guy
Oh, okay.
the guy goes to like
Yeah.
find cryptids and shit, but like he would try
I love that show.
yeah he would like
I think-
every time he would come across him, he would make his like crew try that shit.
Yeah, that's kind of like if you have like a weird food show, that's like one that's up there with like blue oysters or whatever as like something to try.
It's-
But
It's always really funny to me when
I
like
hadn't-
people could like deal with that shit, and then the minute like a durian is plopped in front of them, they fucking lose their minds.
durian is
I want to try
Good though.
durian so bad.
ooh, okay, so I have another a small story. So when my husband's mom like for a little while lived in Singapore, and this is like pretty big, not just in Singapore but like other places where you get like this like cake for I think it's like the Chinese New Year sort of like time, and it's like shit, what's it called? Like a moon cake or something like that. And I was like, wow, that sounds delicious. Let me look it up. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. And there's like all kinds, but it's like for good luck that you get it. Yeah, it's called a moon cake. And it's filled with different things, but she sent us one because Chris like really wanted to try it. And it's like a delicacy. They're like pretty expensive. And whatever. So she sent us one, and we cut it open, and we couldn't tell like what was in ours because there's different fillings, and we were like looking at it, and I was like, I don't know, I can't tell. And I took a bite of it, and it was just like literally a like dried egg yolk, and it was the grossest thing. I like spit it out. I couldn't. Or I think it was a salted duck egg maybe, but definitely not what I was expecting it to be something sweet, and it wasn't at all.
Yeah, it sounds terrible to me.
It was pretty bad. I'm like weird about eggs too, so it was just not my favorite. We should have looked it up, but like they don't all have that. I don't know. Anyways, so this really hit me hard. This scene might be one of the worst scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Is what I'm trying to say.
I think I immediately blocked it out because like I forgot about it until just now.
Yeah, not great. I really wish that I was more adventurous with you. Like I'm pretty open. Like I'll try a lot of stuff. I would not try a century egg. Like I don't think you could pay me to try that because I'm like weird about certain textures too. So like sometimes the texture gets me, and I just wouldn't do that.
The feathers would be too much.
I just remember one of the people that I think it was on Destination Truth that tried it, talking about like the bones and beak being like a weird rubbery but hard consistency, and I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I feel like one of my favorite things is like people who are on, what's the other guy's name, with those little stupid little glasses,
the Zimmerman guy.
Andrew Zimmerman or Zinnerman or whatever. His show, he eats a lot of that stuff too. But the one thing he doesn't like, he's like absolutely repulsed by walnuts, and I think that is the weirdest thing. He'll like literally eat a cricket off of the street, but he will not eat like walnuts.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
I think that's so weird.
He was like one of the guys that I remember specifically that will sit and like eat like goat brains off like a street cart, but then like he couldn't get down durian, which I always found very funny.
Yeah, like durian's not my favorite, but I've definitely eaten plenty of things with it in there that like I don't know. Anyway,
there was a grocery store in Ohio that had durian, but it came in frozen, and I want to try like a fresh durian like really bad.
Yeah, apparently I've never had fresh durian, and apparently it's amazing. And we have a lot of markets around here that sell it. I've just like, I don't know. It seems intimidating to like.
It's also very expensive to buy a whole durian to probably try and like have one bite and then throw away.
Yeah. We also have this one market that's like half outside, and every time I walk by, they have like giant whole jackfruit, and I'm like, there is no way I could bring that jackfruit home and like parse it out myself, but I want to so bad.
Yeah.
Anyways,
jackfruit is really very expensive. Here.
Yeah. What happened?
We were at the egg kissing.
Okay. Yeah. We're done. So basically, yeah, the Sushi were singing opera. I don't know what was going on with that. Keiko and Sawada are trying to open the door. She's like he is pulling on the door handle, and she's pulling him for whatever reason, and then he farts.
Oh, I don't remember that either.
So basically he farts, and she starts like coughing, and she's like, oh, gross. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. It just popped out. But then they hear tiny coughing, and this is how they discover little Tamago. And she basically is like, oh my God, like, there's a Sushi in here with us, essentially. And we also find out that it shoots acid. She is about to smash it, but it is trembling and scared. And she's like, oh no, you're not like other Sushi, are you? And then it sings to them.
She does not take advantage of this thing shooting acid at all.
No, because essentially they use it to melt the door handle, which I just like don't understand how that would help you break out of a room. But like that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has a little acid sac. The whole the little Tamago is like a little, I don't know, like they actually made him. He's not really CG, so I thought he was pretty cute, but like, I don't know, weird twist here. So, basically, Tsuchida goes to what is left of like the Pharma Bro group and is like, I'm really sorry about what happened earlier. And like, is there anything we can do to kind of like keep all of this under wraps? And the president is like, yeah, like, we'll help you cover this up, but we want to eat sushi off of the waitresses. We want to have body sushi. Okay. And then the girls are just like, okay, and they dance around in bikinis while Yumi does the robot. I just like don't know what's going on.
I just like the minute they were like, I want body sushi, I was like, all right, well, this is not gonna end well.
Yeah.
It was just shit like something like that where I was like, the foreshadowing of them doing something that is going to end with something extremely bad, I was on board with.
Yeah, because somehow this group, this like small group of people does not know that anything is weird yet. So basically the girls get on these two tables, which, whatever, in their bikinis, and Tsuchida places sushi on them. So, meanwhile, Keiko is like trying to get to everybody. She runs into the boobs guy who his face is being sucked in two opposite directions by the squid and by another piece of sushi. It looks pretty ridiculous, but like in a good way. This was like one of the only other things I liked about this movie.
I think that was the picture that like made us like that. I forget if it was me or Kit that found the movie that like got sent to like the group chat that we were just like, we gotta cover this movie.
Yeah. And he's essentially like, hey, like he's being murdered by Sushi, but he's essentially like, no, I'm not gonna let you go in there and tell them that Sushi is killing people. Like, I want to be the one to do that because I want my boss to finally like give me some praise before I die, which is like so sad. Because that's like, your boss does not give a shit about you, you know? And then he also says, before you go, can you give me a kiss? And she's like, what? A kiss? And it's like really over dramatic. But then his face skin gets ripped off. And he says something like, my muscles are exposed, which I thought was pretty funny because his like face skin gets ripped off. And it's just like his muscle. He looks like a Titan from Attack on Titans now.
Things like that are like the shit that I really liked in it, where it was just like people just saying shit that's like, yeah, I can see that's what happened. Like, just, I don't know, it also feels like something when like, in like Japanese kind of horror comedy specifically that I like.
Yeah, because there was a lot of that in Meatball Machine, like, one of the things I pointed out was when that guy was like, oh no, my watermelons, you're eating them like that, at least eat them with salt or something, just like completely, I don't know, stupid like that, which I thought was funny. So this scene was like funny to me, but just, So, okay, so his skin gets ripped off. He runs into the room and is essentially like, no, but like, stuff is, he's like trying to warn them. But because he doesn't have any face, they don't recognize him and they think he's an intruder. So Nosaka kind of like throws him over his shoulder, and I guess he dies because of that. I don't know. He's dead.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Then the sushi starts biting the girls, and there's a lot of blood spraying everywhere for a pretty long time. Like, this scene lasted for a while.
Yeah. This was not, like, my favorite part.
No. Then there's a scene that was pretty funny of Sawada, who is trying to defend himself from a piece of sushi, but he's, like, holding a knife to stop it, but he's, like, afraid of the knife, and he's afraid of the sushi, so he's like, sushi, knife, I don't know, it was pretty funny. Then there is just all of a sudden now an entire, what he calls school of sushi. There's just like a huge group of sushi flying through the air that's like coming towards Keiko, And Tamago is like, look out! And she kind of like matrixes underneath them, and so all of the sushi comes like flying into the room where like the boss and the other survivors are. And then Keiko comes in with a mop and is like fighting Sushi with the mop as it's like swarming around. Nosaka saves her again by shooting a bunch of pieces of sushi, which really good aim because the sushi's not that big.
Yeah.
Sushida is I don't know. Basically the sushi is like coming for him, and he basically like first gets his eyes like sliced off by one of the tuna that has like the razors or whatever, and Yumi's like, oh no, your eyes. And then his nose gets chopped off and she's like, oh no, your nose. And his nose falls on a piece of rice, like a rice block, and then his lips gets chopped off and she's like, oh no, your lips. And then she's like, oh, I'm getting out of here. So she runs, but she trips and eats his nose sushi.
So good.
I hate that so much. Nose sushi.
Yeah, and if you go to the IMDb, there's a really nice picture of it right there. Yeah, you can also see the egg yolk kiss.
Which who doesn't want to see that?
I mean, you can also see stabby hand. So if you still aren't clear on what stabby hand is, it's there for you. She like gets up and goes. She basically like runs out into the hall and kind of like laments about how the Tsuchida is dead now, and he was like her one true love, etc., etc. Meanwhile, like a piece of sushi goes up her skirt and like goes inside her, I guess. I don't really know what's going on because she's like, ah. And the sushi is like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, well, I don't know. Like the placement of where they were having it come out of her body was like weird. Like I wasn't really sure what was happening.
All I remember is her
later
being like, "Oh no, it's inside of me. Oh no, it's deep inside of me."
Yeah, but like it was coming out of like where her thigh would be. So I don't really know. Anyways, her husband is basically was like hiding in the room outside of where she was like confessing that, you know, she was in love with the sushi chef. So he comes out and he's like, I knew you were sleeping with him. I'm going to kill you. And he's got a knife. But, you know, Sawada's in there with him. And it's basically just like, don't kill your wife. It's fine. And he's like, okay. So the two of like the pharma boss and Nosaka are like running away. They come across the squid guy and he's still alive. And he's essentially just like, yeah, I love to see all this sushi taking down the company. But I realized when I was dying that I need to take you down myself because this is all your fault. And then also, like this whole time we think Nosaka is like a good guy, but it turns out that he actually framed Squid Guy in order to get him arrested and thrown in jail, making it seem like he came up with like the serum himself or whatever. And he's kind of like, well, I only did it because the boss told me to, like, don't take it out on me. And he's like, nah, that's not cool. So then the squid guy, this is like one of the only parts of the movie that I really liked. The squid guy basically eats a piece of sushi that has been injected with the serum. Meanwhile, he starts like spasming or whatever. Nosaka handcuffs the boss to a statue and is basically just like, like I was trying to get rid of you this whole time because I want to run the company. Haha. He runs away. Squid Guy announces and is reborn as a tuna. So now he is a man with a tuna head. That looks pretty cool. It's like a real tuna head. It's not CG.
I don't want to be friends with anybody that does not like this guy turning into just a human body with a tuna head.
And it's pretty funny because like the fish head like gulp does like the gulpy thing that fish do too, like whenever he talks or whatever, and it looks pretty cool. I liked him.
For most of the like the stuff leading up to this. Like, if the rest of the movie would have just been, like, the sushi attacking people, I don't think I would have liked it as much. once this happened, I was just like, I don't know what's going on anymore, but I fucking love this.
Amazing. It stepped up to a whole new level.
I think for me, what would have made this like overall enjoyable is if I love the fish guy, keep fish guy. If the rest of the sushi was like the squid, where it was like an actual thing and not like a piece of sushi, or if they were like a little bit more creature like monster-esque and weren't like CG flying around, like I think it would have worked better for me. But like, I don't know. I guess we didn't describe like the sushi whenever it turns looks like sushi, but then like the fish part will lift up and there'll be like tiny teeth. And I just feel like I wanted there to be more.
I don't know. I was fine with
More
it.
teeth.
I don't know. But I don't necessarily need more teeth.
I mean, like,
but...
the CGI is pretty bad, but I also feel like I think this, like, the more I've kind of starting to watch, like, Japanese horror movies that aren't, like, Miike or, like, kind of popular ones, like, it seems like a lot of these directors and stuff direct it's just, like, 10 movies a year. So like it seems like, I guarantee you they're just like, we have 2 weeks to get this movie done. Probably like the same sort of, probably a little more time than like Sci-Fi Channel movie stuff does, but you know, they're probably on just like very quick turnover where they're just like, CGI is just like the only way we can get this accomplished. So like I get it, but I like, it definitely would have been better if it was practical. But like I mean, you know, like anytime it's like a close up and it's not them flying around, it's like a practical thing, so I like that. But yeah, like anytime they're like flying around at people, it looks very like, it looks worse than Sci-Fi Channel CGI.
Yeah, and especially because this came out in 2012, right? I was like not expecting it to be as bad.
I can only assume it was just like a time restraint kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing about the egg kiss. The movie so it actually says in the credit, like on the IMDb for Dead Sushi, that it was spoofing that movie I was talking about called Tom Popo, and that movie's from 1985, and basically it is a comedy, so it's already a comedy, and it was like spoofing off of that, and so I'm assuming maybe that's where it came from, as just like a ridiculous thing or whatever. But it's like basically it's about it's a bunch of different shorts, but one of them is a gangster who mixes quote unquote hot sex with food. But the tagline for this movie is the first Japanese noodle western. And this movie it actually has like pretty high ratings, 1985. So
there's no chance that like people haven't tried that.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just such a, I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, hot sex and food, egg yolks. Okay, so we are at, Squid Man says, I am reborn as a tuna. And he also has an axe, which he swings at the boss, but instead of hitting him, accidentally cuts his handcuffs off. So, oh my god. So the boss runs and comes into like a room that has a tub, but it's like a big tub because it's like a shared situation. And first of all, just like gets into the water and is going to try and hide in the water, like that would do anything. But then a naked girl comes in, and she like essentially is like, whenever you like, if you're going into a tub, especially like a communal one in Japan, you wash yourself first and then get in the tub, because the tub is for like relaxation. So she's washing herself first, but the camera is just like zoomed in on her boobs the whole time. And she's talking about, she's like, oh, this, and somehow she also doesn't know that anything weird is going on. She's like, oh, this is such a relaxing place. There's no perverts here. If I saw a pervert, I would I would make sure that his life was ruined. And it's like slowly zooming in on the boss like in the water, like listening to her, and he's like, oh my god, like what am I gonna do? um but also her boob is like taking up the whole screen. I was like, okay, can we move on? So basically, like the fish guy comes in. She doesn't notice because she has her eyes closed because she's washing her hair, basically. And the fish guy comes in with, and just like cuts off the president's head with an axe. And there's blood from his body spraying all over her. But because her eyes are closed, she doesn't know that it's blood. She's like, this water is so warm. Hee 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 hee. And she's like laughing, just like covered in blood.
I love it.
Very ridiculous. So basically, Keiko and what's left of the survivors, which is essentially like one other waitress, one company guy, and Nosaka, I think, and forgot his name, Sawada. Basically, oh my god, Jesus, I don't even know how this just keeps getting worse. They basically are like, they like make it to the front door, and they're like, okay, if we can get outside, then they're not going to be able to get us. And then, wouldn't you know it, there's some sushi outside that are mating. Pretty long scene also. And then they're like, oh no, the sushi are mating. And then one of them gives birth to like hundreds of little sushis that come flying out of its mouth.
I was very upset that like the very tiny sushi wasn't utilized.
Yeah. But then one of the guys says, which I thought was pretty funny, we have reached the point where they no longer make sense. Because the sushi, it makes no sense that they can mate and have little sushis. So here we are.
I don't know. I thought that's how sushi was made.
Well,
that's where it comes from.
I mean, in theory, yes, because, fish and whatnot. But so they're basically like, okay, well, we can't go outside because there's lots of baby sushi. The Tamago is like, hey, Keiko, don't lose hope. And like basically gives her a pep talk. Okay. So Sawada and the innkeeper show up at this point. They weren't together before. And they're like, oh no, because all of the dead people that have been killed by the sushi are now rice zombies. So
this is very gross.
Zombies. They're zombies that, like, basically they got bitten and filled with rice. So the rice is controlling their brains, and also rice is coming out of their mouth constantly, like wet rice. It's pretty gross.
Not great.
Not a fan.
No. One of the somebody that was with them, like, turns into one. Not at this point. I don't. Whatever. Like, they basically, the zombies are coming from inside the resort, so they are like, okay, so Wada's like, I have a bar not far away, like we gotta just like go for it. So they run. They're being chased by a swarm of the baby sushi. The waitress, who was one of the body sushi girls, essentially cannot run very fast, and they start attacking her, and she's just like, run, like, use the time to save yourselves, which, she redeemed herself for me, even though she was mean in the beginning.
Yeah.
But the sushi basically, like, tornado around her to the point where just her skeleton falls to the ground, but it's like a meaty skeleton. You know what I mean?
I like that too. It's very stupid, but
yeah,
like, I like shit like that.
Yeah. Like, anything they did with the sushi where it was kind of like a play on actual fish, like, was like, okay, that's kind of like piranha, kind of like, okay. But then, like, the guy who's like left over from the company has a baseball bat, and he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll get him. And Keiko's like, watch out, that sushi's not the same as it was, because now the sushis have torches underneath, like, coming out of their rice, and essentially it torches, a guy in the face. One of the sushis we saw get made earlier was like a cooked tuna where they use like a blowtorch to torch it or whatever. And so he gets torched, and then he's like, the only thing to do now is to eat it. So he eats the sushi, and his head explodes. So the rest of the group makes it back to the barn. Nosaka's already there, just like eating some noodles. And she's like, how, like, what are you doing? And he's just like, don't worry, I understand you because I used to be poor. Okay. Okay, so this is the point where Yumi, she had a sushi go all up in her earlier, basically is turning into a rice zombie. And her husband is basically, like, they have this whole emotional thing where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Like, what am I going to do without you? He's constantly, like, wiping sushi away from her mouth, or rice away from her mouth, and it's just, like, coming out, and it's pretty gross.
Oh, this was, like, mind-bending to me, because the amount of rice that she had in her mouth, because it's all in one shot, so, like, the amount that she spits out and he wipes away, like, I don't think can fit in a human body. It was crazy.
It's very concerning.
Like, he does it at least, like, 6 times that, like, a spoonful of rice comes out of her mouth. And I was just like, I don't know where this rice is coming from.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. So she is a zombie now, essentially, see ya. Like, eventually, though, like, there's, like, other zombies that have made it to the barn, and he is the innkeeper is basically just like, I don't know, whatever, this sucks, and she bites him, and he also turns into a zombie. So they've basically, like, barricaded all the zombies out at this point, but there's pieces of sushi that can, like, get in because, they're tiny. And they're, like, floating around in the sunlight, and Sawada's like, so beautiful, the sushi of my dreams. And I was like, what is going on? Then the sushi, like, launch over, and, like, Sawada does get bit on the neck. But then he yells, oh no, and creates a sound wave that essentially stops the sushi from moving, and they all fall to the floor.
So weird.
Just shouting at Sushi to stop it. It's fine.
It was just,
and essentially,
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, he just says it's because of his chef instincts that he has the power to do that.
It was just shit like that. Where,
sure,
like,
why not?
Every time, like, something happened, I was like, this is not at all what I expected to be happening.
Yeah, definitely not. Because then it gets crazier somehow. So, the squid guy that is now a tuna head, he manages to break in, looking for Nosaka because he's trying to, like, get him, essentially. Keiko and Sawada are like, okay, let's do this, bitch. And they, like, suit up in some sushi chef, that's hard to say, sushi chef clothes. Keiko makes a bunch of sushi that she turns into sushi nunchucks.
I loved
it. And then she goes outside, and basically there's like a long scene of her fighting the rice zombies while Sawada is making sushi and then also yelling, "Oh no!" anytime sushi come to him.
This fight scene was pretty good. Like, and this is the one, like, during the credits they kind of show, not necessarily bloopers, but kind of like a little bit of, like, how, like,
them shooting it,
making some of the scenes. And this one, like, there was, like, some pretty lengthy shots they did in it of, like, kung fu stuff that I was pretty into.
Yeah. So then after fighting the rice zombies, Keiko goes back to fight Squid Guy Tuna Head. She like runs up to the upper deck and then Tuna Head does this really weird thing where he's, like, jumping, like, weird, and then he literally, like, flops over the railing and, like, flops on the floor for a little bit. And then he, I don't know, spits out a bunch of tiny pieces of, like, rice and sushi that then form together in the air into a giant sushi battleship, I think is what he called it. And it's, like, literally, like,
yes,
it's, like, literally it's like one of the ones where it's, like, rice, then they wrap the whole thing in sushi, or not sushi,
seaweed.
God, I've said sushi so many times today. Yeah, and seaweed, and then there's salmon roe on top. So if you could just imagine that, but looking like a battleship made out of that.
Of course, because that's something everybody can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. CG on again, not great. So this kind of lost me a little bit. But basically it's like shooting bombs at her and there's like explosions. And then the Tamago kisses Keiko goodbye and charges at the battleship like a real trooper. Um, then like Keiko and the tuna head guy are like fighting a little bit, but Nosaka comes down and shoots him with a tranquilizer gun and is like, like, oh, don't worry, he's not dead. He's just sleeping. I want to use him for experiments. And then Tuna Head is basically just like, haha, you've already been infected because that ramen you were eating earlier was injected with salmon roe or whatever. I was really expecting so much more from this next scene because I thought Osaka was also going to turn into some kind of creature, and this was gross, but really let me down. Basically, his cheeks swell up really, really big, and then one of them, a hole pops out of it, and there's just like ramen noodles and broth spilling out of it, out of the hole until he dies. And I really wanted there to be more than that because it's just like one little hole with like some noodles. He's dead. Goodbye. Keiko and Tuna Fish Head fight some more. It's pretty cool. It's like choreographed pretty well. Eventually, then they just kind of like show, it kind of like cuts between her and the Tuna Fish Head, Tamago fighting the battleship, and Sagawa fighting now the OG squid, basically, where for a moment it kind of looks like everyone's getting beat, but then, they come back. Tamago basically gets behind the battleship and turns it so that when it shoots out these chains, it comes forward and like wraps up the Tuna Head, and then Keiko does a Keiko kick and launches the tuna fish guy up into the air outside, a la Team Rocket and Pokemon, and then he explodes. Sagawa has also like, I don't know, he just like bites the squid or whatever and beats him somehow. But Tamago, in the meantime, Tamago is dead. R.I.P. to a real one. Keiko goes to reunite with the Sagawa. I'm saying Sagawa, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like I keep morphing people's names and I just can't, I'm not. Anyways, he has made, like, while he was fighting off all the other sushi, he was also making like this beautiful sushi plate, and it's basically like, look, I'm able to make sushi again. She tries it and it's delicious, and they bond over it. They laugh, basically. So then Keiko returns home and basically like apologizes to her dad for running away, and then her dad comments that she's grown a lot since she was gone because now she, quote unquote, looks like a handsome sushi chef. I'm sorry, what?
I assumed that was maybe like a culture thing that I didn't.
Well, I mean, again, it's kind of like the idea that like women aren't really sushi chefs, so I guess like they didn't come out and say, like, there was just like subtle things where like it kind of seemed like he was trying to make her more, quote unquote, what they consider masculine. And so like this was a part of it, I guess. She got toughened up because she fought back or whatever, which like I don't love, but I mean, I guess that's what they were going for. But anyways, he accepts her because of it. Then a sushi that was on her shoulder like flies at her dad, but she shows up behind the counter in her sushi outfit and grabs it and then removes
the nerves,
the vein, the nerve, quote unquote, which is like the teeth essentially, and makes it into sushi. And she says she's the only woman who can make man-eating sushi, and she is waiting to serve us. The end.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I don't know if it's a movie I ever necessarily feel like rewatching, but like, it was definitely entertaining.
I think it would be a good viewing for like a midnight movie with a crowd.
Yeah, I get
like
that.
Watching solo, it's like, it's fine.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Maybe. It would have been a lot. Yeah, I feel like this would have been a better setting if like I had somebody to be like, what the fuck is going on? Like in person, rather than just like saying it into the void.
Saying it to Merlin.
Yeah, and like maybe if I was drinking wine or something, I don't know. It just there, like I said, there were a couple of things that I really liked, but they didn't really outweigh the things I didn't like. So I don't know. Yeah.
Just say you hated it.
I didn't hate it, but it was definitely my least, like, in my mind, I was sort of glad we didn't watch it last month because the things that we did end up watching, like, I liked more than this.
I think this would have been maybe a good replacement for, like, Zebra Man.
I like Zebra Man.
I like Zebra Man better, but this felt more podcast appropriate, I think, than Zebra Man was.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. Any news? All I see is shit about the fucking Saw movie coming out, so I've just been avoiding all of horror news.
Yeah, who cares about that?
Apparently,
I'm
everybody.
excited to see Johnny Saw back in action.
I mean, I'll watch it when I can watch it for free, but I'm not gonna pay $25 to rent it or go to a movie theater to see it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. This will be their first movie back in theaters,
Hard
and I'm like,
pass.
That's sad.
Gotta get COVID
Everybody-
to see Saw.
yeah, and I don't know. I feel like what you like. It's fine. I like the first like 3 or 4 Saw movies, and I saw most of them in the theater. But I'm like personally over the franchise, and I feel like there's like an unreasonable isn't the right word, but there's like a really big hype for this one, and I'm just not really sure why.
It's because Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson are.
Yeah.
Like, I think Chris Rock, like, produced
only
it or
reason-
some shit.
Oh.
That's the only reason I have any interest in it. I don't give a shit about the Saw movies, but I'll watch one that has Chris Rock and Sam Jackson because I'm very curious how it's going to play out.
I just, like...
Yeah.
I can't remember if I had the conversation with you guys or not, but, like, so they're doing a reboot reimagining of Faces of Death for some fucking reason.
We like shit tweeted or texted about it,
and
but
like,
we haven't had the conversation.
The thing I don't understand right now is like, at least a lot of the horror accounts that I follow, at least on Instagram for the podcast, like, all anyone fucking ever talks about is how much they love like The Witch and The Lighthouse and like the A24 movies. And, you know, all the like the Jordan Peele movies and all that shit. Like, all of these original, like, new horror movies. And yet, we're still just getting a fucking 9th Saw movie, another Halloween sequel, a fucking Faces of Death reboot for some reason. Like, I don't understand why we're just gonna keep treading this fucking water of these movies we don't need more versions of. When people could be making shit like I didn't like it, but like Hereditary was a pretty original movie, I think, or like It Follows, or all of that kind of shit. Like, we don't need more fucking reboots. I don't need another sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Are you sure?
I'm gonna watch it. I don't want to, but I'm gonna end up watching it because it's just gonna be there. I'm just not going to pay for it. I'm going to wait till it's for free. I don't know. It's like, it's maddening. And like the amount of people that were like, yeah, new Faces of Death. And I'm just like, why do you want this? This wasn't good to begin with.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't know. I sort of feel like there's a trend where like I don't know who decides it, but somebody will decide that like something is like good news, or someone will decide something's popular that like used to be really uncool, but now it's popular, and then like everybody, that's like all they talk about, and I'm like, okay,
I
sure.
like. I hope Isa Mazei, I'm not sure how their name is pronounced, but they wrote Cam, and it was like based off their kind of like history or whatever. Like they also wrote like a book about it, and like I love Cam, and I hope they get fucking massively paid for this Faces of Death reboot. But like I don't understand why it's even like a thing that's going to exist. If you're going to keep doing reboots and shit, like there's so many other things. Like reboot the fucking Carpenter. Or some fucking absolute shitty fucking 80s slasher that nobody remembers. Not a faux documentary about what's a faux snuff film.
Yeah, not my thing, really, if I'm honest.
Should just reboot Night of the Living Dead again. Fuck it. Alright, anyway, rant over.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the news is like that and like other Blumhouse stuff, which we will no thank you. I do have two newses that you will not care about, but
Video games.
No, the other thing you hate.
Rob Zombie.
No, the other thing that you hate. I don't like Rob Zombie, so I'm not reporting on Rob Zombie. Spectre Vision is gonna be doing a new movie called No Man of God, starring Elijah Wood. That is gonna be about Ted Bundy. He does not play Ted Bundy, but I will watch anything that Elijah Wood is in because I love him. And HBO Max is doing an adaptation of The Staircase that is going to be the writer from the American Crime Story like series, the one that did like OJ versus the People, which is a phenomenal series. They also did Versace. I don't know what the third one was, if there was one, because I didn't watch it. But it's going to be starring Toni Collette and Colin Firth. Wow. And then also Rosemary DeWitt. So that should be out sometime this fall.
Weird.
Yeah. I'm so intrigued. It seems very strange.
The Staircase that's that fucking documentary about the writer or whatever. Is that what it's based off of?
Yeah, the crime writer who mysteriously had two wives that fell down the stairs and died, but he had nothing to do with it.
I watched like the first 2 episodes of that series, and I was so fucking bored.
It's really long for no reason, and like if I ever have to just watch videos of that fucking guy talking, I will dead sushi my eyeballs out because I can't stand him. But yeah. Really, really weird. And I don't know. Colin Firth is playing him, so I'm like so intrigued.
All right. Did you guys watch anything good this week? Kit, did you watch anything at all?
We watched a ton of shit, like soap opera stuff, like Soap Dish and Delirious with John Candy.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing that we watched was Fierce Creatures.
Cry Wolf.
Like, not Cry Wolf. Jesus Christ. That movie was awful. I told Layla, because she's seen it multiple times, I was like, your bad movie tolerance is way above whatever mine is, because I never want to watch that movie ever again.
There's a thing about like bad movies from like the early 2000s that somehow make them more unwatchable than like a bad 80s or 90s movie.
I have no idea what it was, but you know when like a movie just totally clicks with you, like on every front, it was the complete opposite of that.
Are you talking about the one that came out in like 2005?
I think so. Something like that.
I said, are you talking about the one that came out in 2005? Because I saw that shit in the theater.
Probably.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater. What?
I think she said she did too.
Yeah, what? Sir.
Katie loves that
I
movie.
no, I don't.
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for you to be like, sir, the movie's a masterpiece.
It does have our boy Jared Padalecki in it though, so
And
that's
that's
I can see
not
why.
my boy.
No, me and Layla.
Oh, okay.
He's from
Yeah.
Supernatural. Um,
I think I interrupt Kit. Were you say was there something you were about to say about like a movie you did? Oh yeah, there's
you
a
did
movie you
like.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. It's called Fierce Creatures, and it's like the cast of A Fish Called Wanda. It was like Kevin Kline and John Cleese and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Huh.
And uh, so like Jamie Lee Curtis works for a company that buys out this zoo, and they send John Cleese out there to like get it running in tip-top shape, and Kevin Kline kind of takes over and is running it into the ground by doing like advertising in it. So like they're like, "Oh, this is Bruce Springsteen's turtle," and they have a big fucking sign of Bruce Springsteen behind it. It's extremely silly in the best way. I highly recommend it.
I've never heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've just never actually seen it. I might check that out.
If you like A Fish Called Wanda, it is right in that same wheelhouse.
I haven't seen A Fish Called Wanda since like I've been like an adult, but I remember it playing in my house kind of pretty frequently on TV, like growing up. So
There was another one she introduced me to last year, I think it was. I am a big fan of both.
what about you, Katie?
Um, I had a rough time. I was like texting you about it. I watched a lot of stuff that ended up being just like such a waste of my time. Um, I was like watching a bunch of stuff on Shudder. I watched Porno. I don't know when that came out. Didn't like it. But then I also watched, oh shit, what was it called? We Summon the Darkness. Is that what it's called?
That sounds familiar. I have not seen it though, so I'm not sure.
It stars like one of the girls that was like from one of the seasons of Channel Zero and Alexander Daddario, who I also love. Johnny Knoxville's in it. It wasn't the best, but it was like really entertaining. I enjoyed it. Then I also watched His House, which I really liked.
I don't
That one was
I don't know if I've
that
know
one.
what that is.
I think it's like a newer release.
Yeah.
It was on Netflix. Yeah, it came out this year. By Remy Weeks, and I think they won some sort of award for it recently. But basically, there's like a couple who escapes from southern Sudan, and they are basically like placed into like a refugee situation somewhere in England, and they get an opportunity to kind of like live outside of the little like, I don't know, refugee camp kind of situation, and the house ends up being spooky. But it's really good. It was I don't often cry during horror movies, and this movie made me cry. So I definitely recommend that. And then I watched another one called Sweetheart, which is about this woman who basically wakes up stranded on an island, and there's maybe a creature that happens. So I recommend that one. Also on Netflix.
I will.
I think it came out in 2019.
I don't think I've heard of that either. I watched 21 movies since Katie and I recorded last. Most of it I did like a big binge of like all the good Argento movies after watching In Search of Darkness 2. I think I talked about that in the last episode. I watched Dawn of the Dead twice and Night of the Living Dead. I watched Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And then I got way into that Black Blech Buster Video YouTube channel where I watched the Max Headroom movie from the 80s. I watched The Carpenter. I watched Frankenstein General Hospital, which was very bad.
Bummer.
I watched Shockwaves, which was pretty good, but the one I wanted to talk about is I watched Carnosaur.
Hell yeah.
Which was pretty fucking dope and way better than Raptor.
Yep. Carnosaur kicks ass.
It like all of the shit that like just straight up stolen for Raptor. Like I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie before.
Well, now you've got to watch Carnosaur 2 and Carnosaur 3.
Oh, I planned on it.
I think Carnosaur 3 has Michael McDonald in it as a like security officer. Amazing.
I think the only other thing I was going to talk about, I had never watched it because I didn't make it very far into season 2 of Masters of Horror. But Pelts, the Argento one for season 2, with Meatloaf as the fucking main actor, is surprisingly not terrible because Jennifer from the first season is borderline unwatchable.
Yes.
Oh, that one was rough.
Pelts was like not good, but like at least sort of interesting. And having Meatloaf as the weird fucking dude obsessed with the stripper was felt fitting.
Inspired casting.
Yeah.
The only other thing I've seen him in was that scene from, what was that called?
Oh,
Bloodlust?
Blood Rain.
Yeah, Blood Rain.
All right, shout outs. Katie, what do you want to shout out?
I'm gonna shout out a game called Devour, which is a multiplayer game that you basically are members of a cult and your like cult leader has gone missing, so you go to the house to like check it out, and it's pretty funny because I was like sending you Snapchats from it the other day. She basically is like wandering around the house, and like if she grabs you, you die, but like the whole part of it is like I don't want to spoil like the story, but you have to like collect these like little demon goats to like sacrifice or whatever, and it's pretty funny because there's like scare moments. It's fun.
Weird. What about you, Kit?
All right, I'm shouting this out not because it is good, but because I need the world to know it exists. And that is Dr. Pepper Baked Beans by the Serious Bean Company.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Not good.
A lot.
But not bad either.
Have you had the...
Wait, so is it baked beans, but they use Dr. Pepper to make the sauce?
Yep. They've got like Dr. Pepper in it somehow.
I mean, that doesn't seem that off base to me.
Have you had the Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce?
I have not.
It's legitimately pretty fucking good.
That's why to me I feel like the baked beans wouldn't be that bad, but...
See, it makes sense to me. Like, I've heard of barbecue using Dr. Pepper, and like the sauce sounds pretty good. But for beans, it's just...
I think...
It overpowers. It's too sweet. And at a point, they start to taste like Skittles.
Oh!
Like, when you grab a handful of Skittles and it's just like...
Mush.
A big thing of sweetness and not any particular flavor. It's kind of like that. So it's not bad. But I'd just rather have regular beans.
If you're traveling in the Northeast and you pass a Sheetz, go in and get a burger with the Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce. Highly recommended. They have Beyond or Possible. I forget which one. And when anytime I would drive to like Pennsylvania from Ohio, I would stop at the first time I would have to stop at gas. I would stop at the same Sheetz every time and get like a burger with the Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce. It's so good.
Wow. I saw a picture of Pepsi that was peep flavored.
Oh yeah, hard pass.
Yeah, no thanks.
I remember them announcing that around Easter, and I was like, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, it's Stubbs. Stubbs is the Dr. Pepper sauce.
I have no idea.
Oh, like Stubbs regular.
I just know that like I'd had it at that Sheetz, and I was like, this is pretty fucking good.
I'm gonna order that.
Yeah, I know. Like at actual like Sheetz, you can you could just buy a bottle. I think it like comes, it's like Sheetz Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce, not like Stubbs or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's the same thing.
Yeah, probably.
My shout out, I talked about it a second ago, but that Blackbuster Video YouTube channel rules. Go subscribe to them. They upload a bunch of like mostly out of print VHS horror movies. And like some other shit. There's also like they put up VHS like board games on there. So there's like a Clue VHS board game and like some fucking horror one and then a Star Trek one. So it's kind of interesting. I've been watching a bunch of shit on that. And then my friend Gary from the band Caraniere has a new solo album out under the name Gonemage, Gonemage. That's like the only way I can explain it is like if you like RPG video games and black metal and like chiptune, you would like it. It's very weird, but it's very good.
Okay, I like that.
You could check that out at the Bandcamp at gonemage.bandcamp.com.
Check it out on the Bandcamp.
Next week we are doing one of Katie's favorite movies.
Yeah.
The House on Haunted Hill remake.
I'm so excited.
I think one of the I'm almost positive when you like first, or maybe when we first started doing the podcast, you talked about wanting to come on and do an episode, and then since you've been on, it's just never been streaming, or like streaming for free.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
So that'll be next week. If you want to support us, join our Patreon at patreon.com/IHopeYouSufferPodcast. We're going to have a bonus episode on June 1st on Kenan Thompson with 3 movies featuring Kenan of various lengths of screen time. From whole movie to 3 seconds. You can buy shirts and stuff at storefrontier.com/IHopeYouSuffer. Leave us ratings and reviews on iTunes. Leave us a review on whether you would kiss with an egg yolk in your mouth. Or you
would.
Or if you think rice have teeth.
Yeah. If your answer is yes, can you block us? I don't want to deal with it.
Follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face. Go follow her on her TikTok. Get her.
Yeah, we over there.
Yeah, get her mega famous, and then I don't know, give her money.
Yeah.
Give us all money.
Give us money, please.
You can listen to my other podcasts.
Or eggs.
Yeah, send us eggs.
Give us money so we can order ourselves sushi.
I'm gonna open a PO box. You can just send us eggs, and then I will never check it.
Yeah, and
No, no, yeah. Don't send people tea.
You can listen to my other podcast, Nate Cape Movie Club. Yeah, watch. Do you know what the House on Haunted Hill remake is on right now?
Shudder.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shudder.
okay, yeah. Watch that on Shudder for next week.
Or DVD.
Yeah, or go to Katie's house and watch it with her on DVD.
Don't come here.
Unless you have food, specifically eggs.
Bring me...
Or toothed rice.
Yeah, toothy rice.
By the way, I found a recipe for the Dr. Pepper baked beans, and I found the issue here. It's because they're using a whole cup of Dr. Pepper, an entire cup of Dr. Pepper.
Way too much.
And that's like that's like the entire base of the sauce. So yeah, I'd agree with you. Probably not great. Not liking the sound of it now.
I see people that'll do like shit where they'll be making like
just a little
bit.
Turkey
where they like roasted or fucking whatever, like Pepsi, and I'm like, this is too much. It's like a 2-liter
Like-
Pepsi. That's too much.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
Yeah, I get the idea behind it, but like, let's not be crazy, okay? Let's just,
All right.
you know.
I hope you Dr. Pepper, but not beans.
Oh, I hope you egg, but don't
Not in
pass
not
it
in my
between
mouth.
people's mouths.
Rice, dude.
Yeah, I hope you tooth my rice.
Yeah.